Hello and welcome to Story Glimpse, the second show from the creators at Story Medics. Now, I'm Weston Kincade, horror and mystery author. This is
Marcus V. Calvert, militant storyteller.
And we're here to tell you a story. Let's get started.
This one's called The Masterpiece. I waited for Quentin jet to arrive under a stifling July night sky. Being half undead on my mother's side, I'd need a double dose of serum tonight. Then again, it might not matter in the coming hours. Once Cray landed, he'd race us toward an obvious trap without any mention of a plan. The agency tasked me as backup because I was the closest unique asset in the area. I asked for a few extra grunts, but got the runaround. As this was the 4th of July in the Big Apple, counterterrorism resources were stretched pretty thin. From what I was told, the target of his rescue op was Amelia Oten, Cray's goddaughter. She was abducted from her apartment near Columbia, where she studied pre-med. One of the few surviving links to his blood-soaked past, Cray treated her like she was his flesh and blood. While they only spoke on holidays, he looked in on her daily. Spies with his track record dealt with all kinds of reprisals against those close to him. That's why he used next-gen tracking tech to monitor her movements. Within minutes of her abduction, Cray had somehow called in a bunch of favors and gotten a green light on this op. One such favor involved the agency vehicle behind me. A loan out from Langley, the late model Escalade was more of a sentient assault tank than a tricked-out spy car. I wonder what other resources would end up at our disposal. After all, this was Quentin Clay, arguably the greatest Black Ops tracker who ever lived. He preferred to work alone, but played well with others. Whether stalking terrorists, stolen secrets, or alien infiltrators, the man rarely came up short. Within an hour, he'd land and take the wheel. Along the way, I'd tell him what little we knew. That poor Amelia was taken 3 hours ago while enjoying the Macy's fireworks display. According to the reports, 4 men grabbed her on the street and dragged her into a black van. Dozens of witnesses saw it. Some cops even gave chase. Yet, in spite of the quick police response and thick traffic, the kidnappers made a perfect getaway. No one could remember a single useful detail, not even the license plate. The van never turned up. Every relevant surveillance camera malfunctioned during the span of her abduction. Worst of all, Cray's tracking tech broke down that very minute, from the spy lenses in her glasses to the GPS gel within her dental work. I grimly checked my watch again for the 4th time in the last 5 minutes. The longer this search took, the messier it would get. The cover-up alone might go into the low 7 figures, not that he cared. That's because, in spite of his Savile Row suits and style facade, Quentin Cray would always be a genius-level, vindictive thug from Toronto. First, he'd acquire a bunch of guns, save his goddaughter, then create another masterpiece. Cray's last masterpiece was done back in October. Some fool tasked him to administer the final exam for the agency's unique asset candidates. To pass, all they had to do was make their way through a dozen acres of thick woods and cross a finish line. They had gear, weapons, and superior numbers. Cray had to hunt them alone, using only non-lethal ordnance in his training. 30 trainees entered the forest, including a dragon. In the end, 2 candidates made it across the finish line. The leprechaun required months of physical therapy, and her hair never grew back. The Shaolin monk's right foot cleared the finish line by inches before Cray dropped him with a well-thrown baseball to the skull. The failing candidates were given desk assignments and received further training. That was Cray on a good day, with a few beers in him. Whether or not these poor fools harmed Amelia Oten, they'll end up in the nearest body of water very, very soon. Once she's found, my job's to get her to safety. Then Agent Quentin Cray will do the work of 20 well-trained psychopaths. Thank you.
Good job.
It's a work in progress. And that is flash fiction, trying to cut it under 1,000 words. The July theme I was going after was hard to get. I was trying to write it from scratch, and I had some interesting failures. Always save your failures. And they were centered around a lobbyist witch, which I will finish. But then ultimately, I just grabbed an old story it was short, it was crap, and I put in the 4th of July, and something just clicked.
Okay. The one concern I have is 4th of July, not as bad as mine, yeah, but it's like it was almost lost a little bit.
Yes, exactly. The thing about flash fiction is you don't delve too deeply into the whole elements of whatever. The whole thing for this guy is, okay, I'd rather be kicking back with, some ale and some whatevers. I don't want to see a mass slaughter that would make Rambo cringe. And it just so happened that it happened to land on the 4th of July. Some fool messed with this guy's goddaughter on the 4th of July. Who does that? And I want to bury that into the reader's mind. It's like, oh my God, this is who they're up against. And at the same time, he kind of wants to watch it, but on the other hand, he doesn't want to clean up after it.
I still think, if it's going to be in there and it's going to be a theme, it needs to be a bit more. It's same problem I had. I think it needs to be, more integral.
Perhaps.
So what was your inspiration for this?
Again, I just salvaged the story. On its own, it would have been a generic revenge story. But then I tweaked it to that you had an innocent civilian celebrating the 4th of July, did a little research. Macy's fireworks display 2019. You can't really see it from Central Park this year, but Macy's has a nice bunch of interesting views. I just mentioned, okay, a van, 4 gunmen, they grabbed her, and I made her abduction strange. That the cameras go away, the police, no witnesses. You have a flair that, okay, by unique assets, these guys are not your normal spies. And it could spin into something else quite different than everything like that. But I'm thinking this would be like that interesting way to intro a series or a pilot. Like, oh, geez, someone messed with us.
I almost see this as the victims of like Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible. Like they go through, do something, and this is what winds up happening as a result.
with a touch of like Bureau 13 or Special Unit 2 or
all
Men in
the
Black.
tech stuff. It's this is not a amateur crew.
Yeah,
It's pulling this off.
But what's fascinating here was this guy was watching her almost like she was a target, but she was his little goddaughter, And he took the responsibility very seriously. And when she was grabbed, he was calling the shots, calling in favors, maybe making threats, maybe using blackmail to get this thing rolling. I wanted to make this bigger, but I wanted to stay within Flash just to show that it can be done. You can tell a significant beginning, middle, end story, still have some people wondering, but at the same time get it across in under 1,000 words. Just wanted to make the point.
Good job.
Thank you, Sana. Thank you.
And now reading it aloud, which I'm not sure if you do this at home, but it is something I highly recommend. You'll catch things you don't even think about. But reading it aloud, is there anything that you caught that you would like to change?
Oh, I'm sure I will next time I read it, and the time after that, and the time after that, and the time. Writers.
But nothing really stood out?
Enlighten me.
No, I was just curious. I was curious.
If I've seen it before this camera went rolling, I sliced and diced it.
Okay.
But if I look at it tomorrow, guaranteed I'll change something. And when I stop making changes, that's when I know it's almost ready. And then I'll give it to somebody else, and they'll see what I missed, and then I'll come back and I'll beat it up some more.
Yep.
That's how the good ones are done, these stories.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us here at Story Glimpse. Again, I'm Weston Kincade, horror and mystery author. This is
Marcus V. Calvert, militant storyteller.
As you have just seen. So please remember to subscribe. Click the bell to hear about new episodes as they come out. We look forward to seeing you again.
And there'll be more stories coming. Take care.